No, we don't need an encore. Well, Jimie-Wray, you got to follow up after that. So our guest today, our past president, our friend, is here today for
I know Jimie-Wray wants that.
Thank you.
for his final farewell as president. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
So the floor is yours.
Thanks. Well, let me say it is good to be home. It's good to be back here in Stillwater with you today. I've been looking forward to this afternoon and just never dreamed when Chris called me that you are quite the singer. and good with the guitar. Well, a couple of things before I begin. I chose the sneakers on purpose this morning for our PowerPoint. Makes us maybe feel a little bit younger today as we think about summertime. But a couple of personal things that I wanted to mention. We're very excited. Carla and I's son Noah, who is a graduate of Oklahoma State and visited our club often. He is going to be getting married on July the 14th in none other than Washington, D.C. And Carla and I, and also our daughter and son-in-law and little grandson, we're all going to have an opportunity to be up there in a couple of weeks, so we're excited. The second thing that I wanted to mention, there's something great about going back home where we started, and I've already got my grandson up in a combine. So 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity either to get up there or to let him go. Well, being the good grandpa that I wanted to be, I said, no, let him go first. So he's already been up in the combine, and we're excited about that. I really believe, I mentioned it about 6 weeks ago, we were not looking to move. Love Stillwater, love everything about this group and the church and the community, but really believe that the Lord orchestrated things for us to go back home. We have been with my mother and father more in the last 5 or 6 weeks than we've been with them in the last number of years. And we're glad to be back in Hinton. But Stillwater will always have a very close place in our hearts. Well, as you think about this afternoon, today is a significant day. It's a day of outgoing board members, and it's also a time for some incoming board members. And as I think about today, I recognize that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I have tried to select some pictures over the last 52 Thursdays, but not all. I've reserved just a few comments for a few of the slides so that we can get through this before our 1 o'clock departure time. But it all starts with this individual, Paul Harris. We've talked about him before, but we need to say something about him again today. On February the 23rd, 1905, he met with 3 others in Chicago. That's where Rotary began. That's where it started. And by 1908, he was elected the president for the 3rd time. So, Shane, maybe you'll be elected again down the road. By 1910, Rotary had spread across several different cities. And on January the 27th, 1947, Paul Harris died at the age of 78. He's been gone since 47. Think about what Rotary has really become in 2023. Not just an organization in the state of Oklahoma or across the United States or there in Chicago and Illinois, but across the world. And clubs that are strong and clubs like ours that is growing. When you think specifically about our club, something that we've mentioned a number of times, there are several of you in this group. You weren't probably around in 1921, but that's when the Stillwater Rotary Club was founded. And that group spawned the Frontier Rotary Club, which involved many of us in this room. And really, it was because of Kevin, primarily because of Kevin and others, that just a few months ago, we became one club, and we were able to take their charter, and we became the Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club. And you stole my words. Founded in March the 1st, 1921. That makes us one of the oldest clubs in the state of Oklahoma, and one of the oldest clubs in the United States. So, you know, as you think about some review, it all started back on July the 7th, 2022. That's when it started for our Rotary Club year, and it was none other than Abby Davis. And she spoke about understanding the needs of Oklahoma's workforce. If you remember that speech, that presentation, she spent a lot of time talking about COVID. She talked about some misconceptions, and she spoke about where we were going. I believe it was Butch that said, Abby needs to be a Rotarian. And within maybe 6 to 8 weeks or so, maybe even a little bit less, Abby became one of our own. So welcome back again as one of ours. On July the 14th, we had someone that spoke several times, John Wedlake. He is working for and founded Stillwater Neurology. And he spoke quite a bit about some different things that people have suffered with, the things that they do, and spoke a lot about ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And it was on, I don't remember if it was that day or it was another day, but we know James McDonald. And I didn't have the pleasure of knowing your wife, but you're a window into her life. And our club recognized what she means to you and to your daughter and to this community, and we took up a table donation. And that just shows everyone in this room in our community how much Rotary cares and how we're a family. We're not just a civic club. We're a group of people that have a purpose, and we are there to walk with one another. On July the 21st, we had Teresa Rose that spoke from the Community Foundation of Oklahoma. And we used them at least once, if not twice, and we have monies that from Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club that we have there with the foundation. On July the 28th, we had Trait Thompson, and that like all of the presentations, were excellent. And he spoke about some of those places that you've been to and some of the museums, others maybe that we want to go. It was excellent. On August the 11th, we had Cortland Warren. Let me tell you what, that man needs no introduction. He has spoken here a couple of times, and he has workshops, speaks all over the country, and we had a privilege of hearing him again here. On August the 11th, I had that August the 11th, I messed up on one date there. Another Thursday in August, we had Jim Priest from Goodwill Industries. I told you that there are a few of us that are paper readers. He used to write in the Daily Oklahoman on a weekly basis. Excellent writer. But he came and spoke about what Goodwill is doing for the state of Oklahoma and in cities like ours, and he did an excellent job. You know, that man needs no introduction. I guess we could give, if anybody needs to be teased a little bit, it's been a while since Larry's been in one of our meetings. But Larry, just like one other person, is the voice of the Cowboys, gave a great update on OSU athletics, and he was our speaker and presenter at the Empower Luncheon and did such a fantastic job. This was one of the questions. Dee Miller, she spoke about Face Women's Program and what they're doing for ladies in our community and Payne County. And once again, we took up a table donation for James' family on behalf of his wife, and we took up a table donation that day to help that great work. And I don't believe I see Glenda today, but a very good friend of Glenda and a person that we know well. This was another one of the questions that came up earlier. We had Barry Tremmel. He definitely doesn't need an introduction. Man, what a writer, what a speaker. And someone that talked about OSU. A couple of questions about that little red school down south came up and what was going to happen to them, and the rest is history. Hugh Gordon gave us an update on our public school here in town and talked about the bond issue, and that passed, and it's going to be exciting to see a new high school down the road. On September the 22nd, Leif Arvidson spoke about the Blessed Reverend Stanley Rother Shrine. Show me your hands if you've had an opportunity to actually be there and see it in person. Okay? Okay, we've got at least one. Unfortunately, we've not had a chance to see it in person yet, but we've driven by it, but that is on our bucket list to do very soon. That was an excellent presentation, and Larry was the reason that we had him come and speak. On September the 29th, we had Heath Hayes speak about the Department of Mental Health substance. On October the 6th, we had Quentin Rucker, who did a great job. Dave Hunziker, the voice of the Cowboys, just like Larry Reese, a man that needs no introduction, brought us up to par again on OSU athletics. And then you talk about Rachel having a lot of energy. Do you remember hearing Dr. Mary Beth Komeski? I mean, that was a powerful speech, and very energetic, and very knowledgeable, and helping student athletes. October 27th, we have Representative Triff Ranson here. We had a forum with a competitor, another person, Michael Ballman, and that vote came out. And Trish, you're representing us for the second or third time? Third time. Wow. On November the 3rd, we had J.C. Hoyt. Man, I tell you what, we talk about Rachel once again. J.C., she's a fireball. And you remember, I mean, I think she's maybe a sister of yours. And you remember what she said about her athletes and what they're doing at the bench, and it was an amazing presentation. Leslie Osborne, the labor commissioner, on November the 10th, I wouldn't want to compare her to any politician, but she is unlike any other politician I've ever known. I mean, she's as black and white as it can be. And she spoke at our club a couple of times and did an excellent job, just like those other three. Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, he is not a stranger to our club. He has spoken here several times, been on the morning scramble from time to time, did an excellent job, took some hard questions because of things that have been taking place in the political arena, and he answered some of those, and some of those he wanted to defer on for others to answer for him, since it wasn't in his respective place. And Dana, let's give Dana a great big hand again for everything she's done at Stillwater Public Schools. Let me tell you what, the 6.5 years that I have been in this Rotary Club, I believe every year you had your young folks come out and sing at Christmas time. And it was always moving. And it just made you feel good to live in Stillwater and to have your kids in school and to know that they would work with someone like Dana, and Dana can't be replaced, but there's going to be someone else, and maybe already is, that believes in this school and believes in the kids. And they're going to try to do exactly what she's done her entire career here. On December the 8th, we had another sports presentation from Guerin, and unfortunately, I think Chris and I talked the next day he was let go. So that was a sad deal, and it'll be hard to get him back. On December the 15th, we had Emily States. On January the 5th, we had Nathan Anderson. I wish Glenda was here. A couple of these other individuals, besides the fire chief, I couldn't remember their names, but you remember that there was a vote on some city taxes, and that passed overwhelmingly. And it was a great presentation that day. On January the 12th, we had Edmund Bonjour that spoke. On January the 19th, we had our softball coach. Kenny always does an amazing job. And they got us into the World Series. It was tough, it was challenging, but we got there. And we're looking forward to another great season. On January the 26th, we had the City Council Candidate Forum. And always appreciate Kevin and all of his work in putting those things together. And Tim said that he couldn't be here today, but Tim was voted in as one of our councilmen, and he is doing a terrific and a wonderful job, and told me today he's actually doing city business in a mandatory training that he had to be at in Oklahoma City, and he wished that he could have been here. Do you remember on February the 2nd, we had Mac Butler? Man, February the 2nd, you remember that was a little bit cooler than what we're feeling today. And Mac worked for Oklahoma State. Many of you have a relationship with him. Stillwater Public Schools is very, very blessed to have him. And then on February the 9th, we had Randy Kluver and Emily Bermsa. And they spoke about what we have done in the past with the folks that came here from Afghanistan and what we're presently doing. And there are several individuals in this room that have been extremely active in helping those families. And that comes on a personal basis. It comes through working with Oklahoma State. And it's folks that wanted to make a difference in the lives of people that were completely uprooted from their home country. It was an excellent presentation. And then if you remember February the 16th and then the following week that I don't have the date, someone might have said, Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club is going to the dogs. We had dogs 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if you'll get any dogs this year or not. But you remember that we had Dr. Leslie Rogers, and that was one of your questions, Rachel, earlier. And she did some chiropractor work on that dog. And my folks actually had her come out to their place when we were living here in town twice to take care of their little Boston Terrier. She did an amazing job. And she spoke that really more of her money and time is spent on doing farm animals, and especially bulls and cows and those kinds of things. And then you remember that we had an opportunity to hear Doug, and I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Achel, okay? And he has been involved in the dog sled run up in Alaska. Another big dog right here in front of the podium. And it was an unbelievable and remarkable presentation. Sled Dog Tales, it's all about the dogs. March the 2nd was a really wonderful history-breaking time for our club because we became 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club. At that time, every one of us, because of the generosity of others, became a Paul Harris Fellow. And that's honoring the founder of Rotary. And we, too, are one of the few to have that recognition. On March the 9th, and again, we owe a great deal of gratitude to Kevin. We had Joyce Jackson. And you remember, she talked about being at that local restaurant, pharmacy, downtown Oklahoma City, and what some adults did to her and some other young girls back in that very turbulent time. And she spoke about what it was like to be a person of color and what they had to endure. And she gave us her opinion on today and things that need to continue to move in a better direction. On March the 16th, we had Natalie Hood. She spoke about she was our Global Grant Scholar, and she did an excellent job. And she represented our club very well. On March the 23rd, we had Josh Holliday. And I always enjoy listening to Josh. Josh is another one of these guys that kind of is very black and white. And he did an excellent job. On March the 30th, we had our own Meredith Woodruff. And let's give her another great big... And we can't do it today, but Meredith, I thought about you just over the last week. Maybe if you've got a moment to stay after Rotary, I'd love to hear your opinion on this individual that was within 25 miles of Moscow and how that affects Putin. We've read it. We've seen all of that. I appreciate her and her wisdom and skills and what she means to the United States and what she means to our club and what she means to our community. On April the 6th, we had Cindy Carter. On April the 13th, we had Blair Atkinson. And you remember, Blair is just outstanding, full of wisdom, very energetic, and she too is going to help the university in a great way. And then without some pictures, just very quickly, we had Matt Upson with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We've already taken up 2 table donations, and another person said, you know, we need to give money to this. that every child is going to have access to a book. And this is something that they'd made a presentation at another group here in town. We took up a table donation for them, and we appreciate that work. We had Luke from the Grand Mental Health. Grand Lake is what we typically would have called them in the past. And we know that mental health is something that needs to be talked more about today. And it's something that folks are challenged with just like any other kind of health ailment. And we are so blessed to have them in this community and across our state. Brent Kiesling is not a stranger to Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club. He is from the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, and he did an excellent job. And then the last meeting that I really had with you as a group was Norman McNichol. And it was saying goodbye. And he did an excellent job, and it was especially moving when he talked about his mother in particular and his brother that was in a building very close to where the Merle building came down. And he spoke about how that's really changed his life. And many of you know Norman far better than I do, but what a wonderful servant. What a patient guy. What a quiet, steadfast leader. And we appreciate him. On May the 18th, we had Mike Stabus with the Dancing Turtle. I continue to follow things in our local newspaper, and there's been several activities. On the 25th, Paul came with the hyperbarics for heroes. June the 1st, we had Girl Scouts of the Eastern Oklahoma. And then I wished I could have been here for that June 8th presentation, which I still need to go back and to watch from Stu Russell. On June the 15th, oh my word, what a tag team. Christy Morrison and Chris Norris. I imagine they brought you up to par on everything that's taking place with visiting Stillwater and the things that they believe and want to do and the dreams that they have for our community. And then on June the 22nd, Lions Meadows of Hope. These last couple things that I want to mention, over 90 to 95% of all the programs come from one person, and that's Chris Norris. Let's give him a great big hand. I have been involved in Rotary in Muskogee and Hutchinson, Kansas, and here. And amongst those two other Rotary groups and others that I've visited, one in Branson not too long ago, there is no other club like Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club. And there is no other club that has the presentations that we have. Had a meeting about 6 weeks ago before I stepped down with some other assistant governors, and they spoke about some of the programs, and we spoke about some of the programs we are having. I appreciate Chris Norris greatly. Just a few last things to remember. This isn't everything, but Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club is more than just programs. It's more than just our dues. It's the things that we're also doing with our hands, that we are giving up our time. Mobile meals, making a difference in the lives of people that can't get out. Reading at Will Rogers, to see those kids, their eyes open up and the smiles on their faces, and those kids always wanting to give you a hug. Reading makes a difference. And that's a part of our group. Parking cars. We've had so many people over the years that have helped park cars at the football games, the fundraisers, Butch and others that have led that way to help our club. The Empower Luncheon and the help that we have given them for many years, and the great celebration that we had this past year. I believe with all of my heart the current Rotary Board, those that are getting ready to go out, they all need a great big hand of appreciation. Shane, before you stepped into my role, I appreciate you being the president-elect. You have and you will do an excellent job. Ivan, thank you. Let me tell you what, doing the books, and Mark, where is Mark? Thank you for what you're doing and your team, along with Ivan. There are hours that are put in every week just to make everything take place. Marcia, we couldn't have a better secretary. Thank you. A lot of organization. And man, I'm going to hate saying the one and the only. I can't say that anymore. So, Rachel, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. Sarah, thank you. I wanted to try to find the video of when you did this last year, and I think it's so old I couldn't find it over the last 2 weeks. I appreciate you being the past president, you stepping up and saying, I want to be the past president again to help Shane out and to be here for him. Thank you for everything you've done. Kara, thank you. We wouldn't be eating today if it was not for Kara. And my wife appreciates you and how surprised she was to get that phone call about 6 weeks ago about all the corny things that you asked. And she answered about me. Kevin, let me tell you what, this club wouldn't be Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club without Kevin. And it's not only all of the things that he does for Stillwater Frontier Rotary Club, but it is everything from the sound to the computer to moving things and making this happen. Here I am about an hour and 45 minutes from here, and yet I could still see the video. I could still see and know exactly what we're doing as a club. So thank you. Your knowledge of Rotary is just unbelievable. Connie, our soft-spoken servant for vocations. And not only what you're doing, but you always wanted to help Jane, and you wanted to help others. So we appreciate that. And Jane, thank you. Parking cars, and when it came to special activities and reading, she's the person behind the scenes making it happen. Thank you. The books that you chose, thank you. Carson G., our high schoolers are not the hope of tomorrow. They are the hope of today. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being the organizer and bringing them in and helping them. Thank you for the committee, Bob and others that work on the scholarships and make all of those things happen, not only for their lives now, but for their lives that will continue to be. Tim Harden, who can't be here today, we wouldn't know what the programs were every week. He's the one responsible for putting our pictures in the newspaper. We appreciate him. And then Steve Cundiff and Michael Lorenz, thank you for being members at large, for your wisdom of Stillwater Rotary Club, and for what you've brought to our club and the new things. And one thing I had in my notes that I didn't mention, doing the backpacks. There were several of us that were involved. That was for the smaller schools. You brought money into our group, our Rotary Club, to help those kids when they're on breaks like Christmas, etc. And what a joy to see our incoming and our president there, not only with his wife, but with his kids. Let me tell you what, that's the kind of dad that we want to be like, when your kids want to be there to help. I don't think you forced them. Treat them with pizza. I think that's everything that I wanted to mention today. We mentioned the 2 significant donations earlier. And without further ado, just let me say thank you for allowing me to be the president. The only reason that I could handle my role and responsibility imperfectly was because of the team that I had and the men and the women that made this club what it is. And I know that beginning today with the incoming talent and new folks and the new roles and those that will be working again in those same roles, that this is going to be an excellent and wonderful year. Sorry I went a little bit long. I'm going to hand it back over to our president, Shane.